The bell above the door chimed as Emma Carter stepped into the cozy coffee shop, the scent of fresh pastries and dark roast greeting her like an old friend. It was a chilly Tuesday morning in rural Pennsylvania, and Emma, a 28-year-old nurse and single mother, had just finished her overnight shift. This quick stop was her small reward before heading home to get her son ready for school. As she stood in line scrolling through photos of her little boy on her phone, her attention was pulled to a commotion near the corner booth. A man in his 20s was raising his voice, gesturing aggressively toward an older gentleman wearing a cap with the words "Vietnam Veteran" embroidered on it. The veteran sat quietly, his hands trembling slightly as he tried to remain composed. The younger man barked accusations about war, politics, and violence, loud, cruel words that stung the quiet of the shop. Emma didn't think. She moved. "Hey," she said, stepping between them, her voice firm but steady. "He served this country. Show some respect." The man sneered. "Mind your business, lady." But Emma didn't back down. "This is my business," she replied. "People like him gave you the freedom to be a jerk in a coffee shop." Something in her tone must have struck a nerve. The man's eyes flashed, and in a blur, he lunged. There was shouting, a shuffle of feet, and then a sharp, searing pain. Time slowed. Emma stumbled back, clutching her side as warm blood spread through her coat. Gasps erupted from other patrons. Someone screamed, but Emma's eyes stayed locked on the veteran, who now looked horrified and helpless. He tried to reach her, but another customer held him back. Her knees buckled, and she collapsed gently to the ground, her breath shallow. As the shop owner called 911 and others rushed to help, Emma found the strength to smile at the man she'd protected. "You're worth it," she whispered, her voice thin and trembling. The veteran's eyes filled with tears. The attacker fled but was caught minutes later. Paramedics arrived and worked quickly, lifting Emma onto a stretcher. As they wheeled her out, her hand brushed the veteran's, who clutched it like it was the last thread of hope he had left. And in that single moment, between fear and pain, between strangers, humanity quietly showed its most beautiful face. Soft beeping filled the hospital room, steady and rhythmic like a heartbeat, reminding Emma Carter she was still here. Her eyes fluttered open, the ceiling a hazy blur at first. Then came a clearer image. Her son, Noah, no older than 8, sitting beside her with wide, tear-filled eyes and a trembling smile. "Mom," he whispered, his small fingers gripping hers tightly. Emma tried to speak but only managed a faint smile. Pain radiated from her side, dull and heavy. A nurse noticed she was awake and gently adjusted her pillows. "You're lucky," the nurse said. "Very lucky. You lost a lot of blood, but you're strong." Before Emma could process it, another figure stepped forward, older, with silver hair and deep lines on his face. It was him, the man from the coffee shop, the veteran. "I'm Corporal Raymond Brooks," he said softly, his voice heavy with emotion. I've been here all night. I couldn't leave." Emma blinked, still piecing together what had happened. "The video's everywhere," the nurse added. "People are calling you a hero." Emma looked confused. Brooks pulled out his phone, trembling slightly, and showed her a clip. Shaky footage, filmed by a bystander, captured her stepping between him and the angry man, her voice calm, her body shielding his. Then the scuffle, the knife, her falling. "I didn't do it to be a hero," she whispered. "I know," Brooks replied, pulling a chair close to her bed. "That's what makes you one." He paused, struggling to find words. His voice cracked when he finally said, "No soldier ever forgets someone who'd take a blade for them. You gave me back faith in this country, in people." Tears spilled down Emma's cheeks, not from pain but from the weight of those words. In a world so often divided, one selfless act had pierced through the noise. Noah leaned closer, resting his head on her arm, and Emma kissed his forehead. Cameras might have caught the moment, but this was what mattered. A frightened veteran who now felt seen. A little boy who realized bravery didn't wear a cape. And a woman, broken but alive, beginning to understand that a quiet act of courage could echo louder than she ever imagined. Sunlight poured gently through the curtains of Emma's modest living room as she sat curled on the couch, a blanket wrapped around her and her side still aching from the stitches. Her coffee sat untouched on the table. The TV in the corner replayed footage from the coffee shop incident, with her name now spoken by national anchors. Emma stared at the screen, dazed. The past 24 hours had been a whirlwind. Reporters had called, strangers sent flowers. Social media was flooded with, "Thank you, Emma." She didn't understand how a simple act, one she thought anyone would do, had become a national headline. Then her phone rang. "Private number," the screen read. She hesitated, then answered. The voice on the other end was calm, professional. "Ms. Carter, this is the office of the President of the United States. The President would like to speak with you." Emma blinked. I'm sorry, what?" After a pause, a new voice came on. Warm, steady, unmistakable. "Emma, this is the President. I saw what you did. You reminded us all what courage looks like." She couldn't speak. Her hand clutched her chest as tears welled in her eyes. "I'd like to meet you in person," the President continued, "to thank you on behalf of a grateful nation." Within hours, a courier arrived at her door with an official envelope, embossed with the presidential seal. Inside was an invitation to the White House, and at the bottom, a handwritten note in blue ink. "The nation is proud of your heart. You represent the best of us." Emma stared at the letter, her breath catching in her throat. The paper trembled in her hands. She had always felt invisible, just a nurse, just a single mom doing her best. Now the most powerful office in the world had seen her. The tears came then, quiet, unstoppable. Not from the pain, but from the overwhelming emotion of being acknowledged, of mattering. "I'm just a nurse," she whispered to herself, voice cracking. But before the doubt could settle, Noah climbed onto the couch beside her, wrapping his small arms around her shoulders. "You're my hero," he said with a smile. "And now the country knows it too." Emma pulled him close, pressing her cheek to his. And in that moment, nothing else mattered. Not the headlines, not the cameras, just love, and the quiet truth that being brave doesn't mean being fearless. It means showing up anyway. The grand doors of the Oval Office opened slowly, and Emma stepped inside, her breath catching at the sight. Portraits of presidents lined the walls, and sunlight streamed through tall windows onto the seal of the United States, gleaming beneath her feet. She felt small, but steady, nervous in her simple navy dress, her sides still sore, her heart racing. Flashes from cameras burst around her as reporters lined the back of the room, but Emma's eyes focused on one thing: the president, standing, tall with a warm, genuine smile, hands extended in welcome. "Emma Carter," he said, walking toward her. "You showed the kind of courage this country was built on." She swallowed hard, offering a modest smile. "I didn't expect any of this," she said softly. "You didn't do it to be seen," the president replied, gently taking her hand. "That's what makes it powerful. The world needs more people like you, people who stand up when it's hardest." The room quieted as an aide stepped forward with a dark velvet box. The president opened it slowly, revealing the Medal of Citizen Valor, an honor rarely bestowed, reserved for civilians whose bravery saves lives or uplifts the nation. "Emma Carter," he said clearly, the room silent except for the cameras clicking. "Your selfless act reminded millions of what true patriotism and humanity look like. It is my great honor to present you with this medal." He pinned it gently on her chest. Emma's lips trembled, her vision blurred. Then came the sound that would echo in her memory forever. A crisp, proud salute. She turned slightly, and there he was, Corporal Raymond Brooks, the veteran she had saved. Dressed in his formal military blues, his eyes filled with tears. His hand trembled slightly, but his salute was sharp, heartfelt. Emma couldn't hold back. She stepped forward and embraced him. "I didn't save you," she whispered, voice thick with emotion. "You saved me too." The room stood in stillness. For one fleeting moment, politics, divisions, and noise disappeared, replaced by the quiet dignity of sacrifice and gratitude. Later, as she stood outside, looking up at the flag fluttering above the White House, Emma held her son's hand tightly. She wasn't just a nurse. She wasn't just a woman from a small town. She was living proof that courage doesn't always wear a uniform, but it always leaves a mark. The town square was alive with music, laughter, and the scent of grilled corn and funnel cakes. It was the annual summer fair, but this year it felt different. Banners fluttered in the warm breeze, one reading, "Welcome home, Emma Carter, our hometown hero." Emma stood near the stage, her medal tucked inside her coat, not for show, but for safekeeping. She hadn't returned for applause. She came back because this was home. And now, more than ever, she understood what that meant. Children ran between booths, veterans sat proudly in the front row, and neighbors she hadn't spoken to in years came up to hug her, eyes glassy with emotion. But what moved Emma most was the sign beside the community center. The Carter Fund for Veterans and Civics, inspired by compassion, built for change. It had been started by Corporal Brooks and townspeople moved by Emma's story. The fund would help veterans access medical care, mental health support, and speak at schools about courage and empathy. The mayor took the stage briefly, then invited Emma up. She hesitated at first. Public speaking wasn't her thing. But she stepped forward, microphone in hand, the crowd falling silent. "I've been called a hero," she began, voice quiet but steady. "But I never felt like one. I'm a nurse, a mom, someone who just did what felt right." She looked around, her gaze landing on Brooks, who gave her a nod of encouragement. "You don't need a title to be brave," she said, her voice gaining strength. "Just a heart big enough to act. One small choice, stepping in instead of looking away, can change everything." Not just for someone else, but for you. The crowd erupted in applause. But more than the clapping, it was the stillness in people's eyes that told her her words had landed. Later that night, as the sky turned deep blue and the first fireworks bloomed above the fairgrounds, Emma stood with her son beside the carousel. His hand was in hers, sticky from cotton candy, his face lit with wonder. Around them were people, some she knew, some she didn't, but they smiled at her like family, like they belonged to one another. As colors exploded across the stars, Emma looked up, then down at Noah, and whispered, "This is what being alive means." And for the first time in a long time, she didn't just feel strong, she felt whole. "You said,